What's up guys, it is Dan from FightWave, and today I am joined by somebody I am incredibly excited to speak with. If you know anything about FightWave and Dapper Media, this guest has been a regular mainstay on the FightWave schedule programming, and today I'm privileged to be joined by him yet again ahead of his upcoming fight against Tatsuro Taira on October 12th. I am privileged to be joined by the one, the only, Mr. RAWDAWG, Brandon Royval. Brandon, thank you so much for your time, brother. I think it's the fourth or fifth time we've spoken to each other for an interview. First and foremost, thank you so much for that. And how are you doing, my brother? It's been a minute.
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Not too bad, not too bad. Can't complain. You know, any chance I get to speak with a FightWave regular or somebody who has shown us nothing but love in the past to now, it's a privilege. And I feel like for you, I feel like just fans are excited right now, man. Anytime we see a RAWDAWG fight announcement, we get excited, we get hyped. And especially this fight against Tatsuro Taira, main event yet again. Talk to me about how you're feeling about this fight, and now that the news is finally out there that you'll be facing yet again another killer in the flyweight division.
Yeah, I mean, as far as like Tatsuro Taira goes and the matchup goes, it's just like it's one of the only fights I just did not want to. I didn't want to fight Tatsuro. I'm gonna be honest. He trains out of everybody in the top 10. He's the only one that will train in Colorado. So it's I've had the pleasure of training with him a handful of times. Really nice kid. I tried to set up a fight elsewhere with a couple other people, and it just never worked out. So at this point, it's like I'd be doing him a disservice by saying no to a fight with him. He beats me, he'll get a title shot, and yeah, it's just one of those. It was like I've never actually fought someone I've trained with before, so something that I'm not really looking forward to in that sense.
Definitely, kind of more of a bittersweet feeling, I'd imagine, and just seeing kind of the state of the division right now, like you mentioned, a little bit of frustration, I know, for you in recent time through discussions that we've had just about where the division kind of lies right now. What are your thoughts on just the way the division has panned out over the past few months? You see a lot of things, a lot of moving parts kind of not materializing. What are your honest thoughts on just the flyweight division as a whole right now?
I mean, if Kyle Sakura comes, I'm pretty stoked on it. I feel like it'd be some good times. Obviously, they're cutting flyweights that aren't exciting. I knew that was a thing, so luckily, I'm never in fear of not being exciting. I fucking fight my ass off. So, as far as the division goes, I kind of like the idea of keeping it super exciting. I like the idea of Kaya Sakura coming to the division. I like the idea of anybody kind of shaking up the top five. I feel like for me, it's I pretty much fought the whole entire top five of the division except for Tatsuro Taira now and Amir Albazi. So just keep these dudes at bay, and hopefully I can get a rematch and end our fight whoever's a champion at the time.
Definitely. And you talk about a little bit just alluding to obviously what happened with Muhammad Mokaev. Last time we spoke, a little bit fired up about just a call out. I think at the time we last spoke, he had called you out for a fight, and that obviously didn't materialize. What are your kind of thoughts on obviously that whole drama that's just unfolded? It's a big story over the past few weeks. What were your thoughts, honestly, when you saw the announcement that he's probably not going to return back to the UFC?
I knew that was coming. As far as like, yeah, it was something I kind of heard rumors about before he officially got cut, or like before he even announced it. Was I knew if he had a boring performance, they weren't going to keep him. And as far as like that goes, it's just like that sucks, bro. It really sucks. I feel bad for him. I like talking shit. Bro, fighting's like something I've been doing forever. So talking shit, having a little bit of hype, all that stuff, something that I'll always enjoy. So to see that he got cut and he's not in the division, it kind of sucks. You know what I'm saying? In the sense of just for him, I feel bad for him, and it's like, I'll talk all my shit all I want, but at the end of the day, it's like there's no point if he's not in the division. I'm not fighting, so just sucks. It sucks for him, and I feel bad for him, but I'm sure he'll be back.
No, yeah, definitely. I think for like fans of just the sport, you see what happens with a young fighter like that. Obviously, whatever the circumstances are behind the scenes, definitely it's kind of upsetting to see that that's kind of the turn that it took. And like you mentioned, right now, just the state of the division, you've pretty much when you talk about flyweights that have really just made a stamp on the division, I don't think that you can have that conversation without having Brandon Royval in the conversation. When you look at your run in the UFC thus far, you've defeated almost everyone apart from Tatsuro Taira and Amir Albazi, like you said, in that division, even avenging one of your only losses inside the UFC and your only other loss being to the current champion. Do you feel like in that element, when you look at what you've accomplished in the UFC thus far, that the recognition still kind of isn't there, or do you feel like there's still a lot more to prove?
I mean, as far as recognition goes, I don't really give a fuck. I'm happy that I got the main event. I just think a 5 round fight suits me. Um, and as far as like the cool thing about fighting Tatsuro Taira instead of Amir Albazi is that he has hype around him, and it's like I don't think Amir Albazi has any hype around him. I don't think anybody really gives a shit to watch him fight right now. He's been off for like maybe 2 years, and his last performance I don't think was really that enough to keep hype around him. So as far as his situation, which is really unfortunate that he's going through some health issues. That being said, is as far as like going in there and still some hype, Tatsuro Taira is the guy to do it against because people are talking about him and he's done some cool things, and it'll be cool to kind of just go in there and possibly take some of that hype and just let motherfuckers remember who the fuck I am. You know what I'm saying? I really have only in my head. It's I don't count a loss to Brandon Moreno at all. So in my head, it's just I've only lost to the champion, and I still think I could take him out. So
Absolutely. And, when you talk about just 5 round fights suiting you remarkably well, we look at the rematch with Brandon Moreno. Obviously, a lot of, not controversy, but a very unfortunate ending to the first fight. And the second fight in Mexico City on short notice, you went into enemy territory and you had one of the best performances of the year. When you talk about performances of the year, what you went and did in Mexico City needs to be talked about more in terms of just a remarkable performance after having an injury within the first minute of the fight, which a lot of people don't even know about. Talk to me a little bit about that whole experience. I know for you, a very dark time earlier this year that you were kind of going through. What was that experience like of just taking that chance, visualizing that performance, and doing what you did in Mexico City?
I mean, it was all a dream come true, man. I've never been a main event in the UFC. I've never walked into enemy territory ever. I don't think I've ever had a fight where maybe except for as like an amateur where I was the less liked opponent. So it was kind of cool to just get booed a little bit and feel that and feel a little bit of I was telling someone this the other day is just like I spent my whole entire life going for Rey Mysterio. I was a huge Rey Mysterio fan my whole entire life, and I'm walking out and I could hear him just be like Moreno. I'm looking at him just cheering for Moreno, and I'm like, "You son of a bitch!" I'm just like, but it was all just like a different experience that I was just happy. I was just happy to pull off a win and and pull through because that first round for me was like really fucking. I didn't know if I could even be able to go through the rest of the fight. I remember thinking that in my head is like I threw that kick and like my leg got wobbly and I was like I don't know what it is about this kid that I'm just like cursed against, like everything like seems to fall apart. So I remember thinking that in my head a little bit too. But that being said is I'm happy that I can just experience that, man. These are cool experiences in life. Not many people get to be a main event ever, but let alone like a main event in the UFC in a sold out crowd and enemy territory. All that is just not only goes to experience, but it just goes to just life, just like cool life experiences too.
Definitely. And I know you talk about enemy territory, not even necessarily enemy territory. I feel like at the end of that fight, you had a very cool embrace with the Mexican crowd. I know for you, just speaking with the crowd and saying, hey, I might not speak Spanish and, I might not have been born and raised here, but you guys represent almost like the best part of me, that warrior spirit, and just I embody you guys every day when I step into that octagon. Talk to me a little bit about just that, and even maybe outside of the octagon, seeing some love coming your way after just such a valiant performance and display.
Yeah, and I feel like that's the truest thing that I could say is just when it comes down to like being a Mexican or being like Hispanic and growing up Hispanic is just like I fucking always fought. You know what I'm saying? Like I've always been a little scrappy motherfucker. If that isn't through like just fighting in elementary school through high school to fighting the UFC. So it's just like, if anything, you could say a million things about me, technical wise, all that shit. I bring a fucking fight, and if there's not a good fight going on, it's the other guy trying to do shit. It's not me. I've never not stood in front of someone and walked forward and try to put an end to somebody. So um, fighting like a Mexican is something that I take to heart for sure.
Absolutely. And you talk about just visualization. I know a lot, even on the Jackson podcast, you talk about the 80-20 principle and 80% of kind of like, I don't know the exact quote. I think even you said on the interview or on the podcast that you didn't even know the exact quote in that moment. But like 80% of what you do isn't necessarily the most productive, but that 20% is where you kind of hone in, and you talk about taking a very different approach for the Moreno fight and visualizing a lot more and really trying to get in that element of doing things to the utmost highest efficiency. Talk to me about some of the biggest takeaways from having that different approach for that camp and just how much it helped you, not just even as a fighter, but also as a person.
Yeah, I think this is the first camp that I've ever just like took a boxing approach to things. And I don't know if you know much about boxing, but boxing coaches will one coach will just follow them around and go through everything with them. You know what I'm saying? And it's usually one coach, and they'll travel gym to gym. They'll travel different places and get stuff done. And as of now, I just train with like a small group of people. And then I have a coach that kind of comes with me everywhere, like visualizes and sets up camp for me. So it's been really cool. I've been trying to figure out like my schedule and stuff as far as Tatsuro Taira goes, because I can't use a lot of the gyms in Colorado if he's going to do his camp in Colorado. So just trying to figure out where he's going to lie. A lot of my training partners are the people that I do train with, also train at Elevation or Forge, where uh, where I know he uses some of that camp too. So I don't want to interfere with his camp, and I'm also just trying to set up my own camp with my own personal people. But that being said, is I have a very very boxing approach to this time. Is just I got one coach pulling the strings, orchestrating it. And then I got a bunch of other coaches along the way too that are helping me out and that are good in their own respective sport.
Absolutely. And of course, you talk about just a lot of that just being that more boxing oriented camp based feeling. And I know for you, just to piggyback a little bit ago, when we're talking about just different life experiences and doing things a different way and capitalizing on experiences, I know for you, even just traveling through the fight game has been a big proponent. And I know for you, UFC 301, you actually went out to Brazil, spent some time there, obviously went to the fights. What was that kind of experience like sharing it with guys like Alexander Hernandez, who you train with, of course, and just a lot of the other Factory X guys who just went out to Brazil, checked out the fights, and just got a really cool experience through the fight game, which I don't think gets talked about enough, to be honest.
Yeah. So for me, I was the backup for the title fight for the Usyk versus whatever. But I tore my like I still was dealing with MCL problems, so I pulled out maybe like 2 weeks before, just because like if anything happened, I couldn't make it and make it a good fight, and I wouldn't want to ruin an opportunity for let's say if Mokaev got it instead or something like that, and not be able to give my full like 100%. Uh, but that being said, it was like, all right, well, I can't train right now. Might as well just go enjoy Brazil and enjoy it for what it is. So honestly, man, it was a beautiful experience. I felt like the Brazilian crowd was super receptive to me. Um, then being in Rio de Janeiro was probably some of the most fun I've ever had. That's such a beautiful place, and really just never wanted to leave. I was like, I could really just set up camp out here and just start my own little gym out here because it was really cool, man. It was really cool, and I definitely see myself living at Rio at some point in my life.
No, yeah, absolutely. And when we talk about kind of just seeing a beautiful country and seeing an amazing event go to an amazing place, I know it was a little bit of a bittersweet feeling. We talked about it a little bit in the DMs. Obviously, the UFC Denver card didn't materialize for you, and I'm still kind of tight about that. I'm just kind of like, man, we really could have had a Raw Dog main event in Denver. Probably one of the best, just homecoming cards in recent memory. Apart from that, obviously, what was the entire experience like of just seeing the UFC come back to Denver in a very long time since I think the last time that they came to Denver?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I was super sad about not being in that position. That being said, is man, it was really cool to just be like a part of the crowd experience. Is Denver's my home. Was born and raised in Colorado, and everywhere I went, I was just taking pictures. Like I actually felt like a celebrity for the first time in my life. Where I'm like, this is like like I'm a represented like citizen of Denver, and I do community work. I do a lot of people stuff, and it's like a lot of things that I do as far as a martial artist is to represent my people and like these are my people. This is my place of home. This is what I reside, and this is what I represent. So it was really cool to just see the warm, receptive of the other side of just all the UFC fans in Denver doing meet and greets and just seeing how long the lines got to just meet with me, and the last experience that the UFC had in Denver is I just lost the LFA title shot. I took a title shot against Casey Kenny on the week notice. The same week they cut the flyweight division, and then the day after the LFA fights was UFC Denver. So I went lost my fucking fight against Casey Kenny, and then I and then I went and watched the UFC fights the next day, and just sitting at the, maybe not in the best seats, to then sitting front row and then having everybody recognize me, taking pictures, and I couldn't even really get up out of my seat without like an escort, and it was just like what a role the 4 years, 5 years of it could have done for me, and lessons learned. And all that being said, is just I'm very grateful for all these little opportunities and these moments that I could have.
Absolutely. And, talking about just a guy who's given so much to the city of Denver and just to the state of Colorado, what you've been able to do just in terms of your charitable works. I know it doesn't get talked about enough, and I know you're not the type of guy to want to just get the spotlight for doing good charitable works. It just comes out of the kindness of your heart. But seriously, what you've been able to do for the city of Denver, Colorado, with I know the back to school stuff that you're doing right now, even I know you're doing a lot of that, just trying to help kids get the proper schoolwear and proper school needs, just to be able to go into the next semester with their best foot forward. How much has that done for you, just as a person? Forget all the fighting stuff for a moment. How much has it done just to be able to have this opportunity to give back to a community that has obviously given you so much back in return?
Yeah, man, I feel like these are the moments I live for. Is like Wednesday is my favorite day because Wednesday is the day I go and do community work later on tonight. So it's like I get all my morning practices done, finish it quick, and then right after me and you are done with the phone calls, I get to go work with a bunch of kids and work some kickboxing, boxing, vent about school, the first day of school, all that other stuff. So uh, this is something that I love to do. This is something that if if I got a platform and didn't use it for the right reasons, I would have always been ashamed of myself. I think there's only been like a few other, as far as like a pugilism type of fighters from Denver that have like, made big, that like made it kind of big. And I'm not saying I made it big or anything, but I'm just in the spotlight right now. And I know one of them wasn't doing any of that stuff. He's doing the opposite stuff. He was being a menace in the streets and all that stuff. So I just remember like him being a hero of mine. It's like I don't want to be that. I want to be the opposite of that. I want to do what I can, and then it's like I have so much like what is it called, social work, social type of work experience that it's like this is what I want to do. And even with the whole backpack drive, it's just like it's such a small thing for sure, but it's like I don't know if you ever heard of like the Maslow's hierarchy of like the hierarchy of just like you need to fill these kids' basic needs, and it's like if you can't if you're going to school and you don't have the right utensils or any of that, it's like how you can be focused in school. Like vice versa is if you're if you're starving, if you're not eating properly and all that thing is like I work with a lot of the kids that are in poor neighborhoods, and it's like sure, they're getting it. They have EBT cards and all that stuff, but then they go to the grocery store with it and grab a bunch of snacks and candy and sugar and all that stuff, and then they're operating in a school level like that. And it's like, I don't know. I feel like within the next year, I'm gonna have really cool opportunities to do some good things for my community, and I can't wait to announce it. I can't wait till I can kind of push forward because it's like what I really want to do is I want to bring counseling in the city. I want to bring counseling to the projects. I want to bring, meet these kids' basic needs of like we got somewhere safe to be. You got healthy meals coming your way every day, and I want those basic needs being met. And if I could do that and get like maybe even like some help along the way of, just the government and all that stuff, is I feel like I could really accomplish a lot of cool things in my city this year. And that's the goal. That's the goal. The next within the next few months. It sucks that I have a training camp coming up because all this is coming into fruition right now. But that being said, is I've worked a full time job and still fought hard. So it's like this is nothing. But it's a cool opportunity that I have right now, and it's only a short time that you're going to be number one in the world or a champion or any of that. This is all such a blink of an eye of an experience, and it's like I got to use my platform now.
No, yeah, I love that so much. And I know even back to when you talk about the job that you worked, I think it was right after your UFC debut, talking about working in, I think, a juvenile correction facility, if I remember correctly, as well as,
Yeah.
training full time. You've just, for the longest time, I know for you, just having an imprint in your community has been such a big thing. And I think that, that's just amazing stuff to hear. And on top of it, you know, I can't even wait to see what you continue to do for the city of Denver and for everybody who I think is not necessarily indebted, but the world is an amazing place with a guy like Brandon Royval in it who is making his impact in his community known. And I want to end on a, just a very remarkable note of kind of full circle moment. We talk about in the very first interview, Brandon, the nickname RAWDAWG and how it kind of sparked an uproar in the MMA community. It's become one of the most infamous nicknames, but it feels like a full circle moment because I know for you, just about a year ago, if I remember correctly, or just recently, RAWDAWG actually finally got a dog in Little Oso. And, you know, that's been a great thing to see across your social media just as a dog guy myself. What's it been like just taking care of a dog and also spoiling him with the ice? I know you got the ice on your neck right now and then spoiling little Oso with the ice. What's that kind of experience been like?
Oh, it's super cool, man. I feel like I've lived my life very selfishly, and anytime that it's like, anytime I'm in between practices, it's like I'm working on this, and then like, like it's all just me with the dog, and I have like 2 hours between everything pretty much. So I'm practice for 2 hours, then him with 2 hours, and practice 2 hours and with him, and it's like it's cool, man. It gives me a reason to not take little naps or any of that like little stuff. It's just I don't know. I've never had an animal my whole entire life, and now that I have like a dog, it's like I'm such a dog person now. Like any animal that comes up to me, or like I'll see a dog walking down the street alone, I'm like try to stop for it and stuff. And it's like if you'd have knew me before Oso, I was a whole different person of just like I didn't care about dogs. I was actually terrified of dogs up until recently. So it's just one of those things. It's like I kind of hit a full circle with it, and I love animals completely. So it's kind of funny to see how that worked out.
Absolutely. I feel like that's just same thing for me, even just getting my first dog, that becoming kind of the sentiment. And, you know, Brandon, I want to thank you so much for your time. Just a great chat as always and a great conversation. I love what you're doing with the city of Denver and just what you've been able to do as a fighter in the short amount of time in the UFC, really making your presence known across these last 4 years, not just on the fighting front, but also within your community. And I know this fight with Tatsuro, like you mentioned, a very bittersweet feeling fighting a guy who trains in Colorado, probably the last guy you want to face just from a personal standpoint in the division, but an element of excitement for what lies ahead. What would be your kind of, not necessarily goals for this year just on a fighting level, but goals on a personal level as we're just about, 2/3 of the way through 2024?
My goals on a personal level, my goal on a personal level, as far as like what I want to do outside of fighting is I'm gonna help a lot of people out. I want to help a lot of people out this year, and I can't wait to announce my next move. But it's a little soon. It's a little soon right now, but soon I'll have a big announcement. But my goals in fighting is just to be undeniable. I feel like I'm already one or two fights away of just who the fuck else is gonna fight for the belt again. I want to take out Tai Tatsuro, and after that, if the UFC doesn't want to give me a title shot, I want to knock out Albazi, or I want to fight Kai Asakura. Whoever they thinks that is him, I want to take out. And I feel like that's the mission. That's the mission. Is just I want everybody to look around and say, all right, who the fuck else now? Who the fuck else? And it's like nobody. All right, cool. Then Brandon earned a shot. So whoever they give me, or whoever they say it deserves it more than me, or whoever can jump me in line, I'm ready to take out at any given moment until I fight Pantoja again, and or whoever's holding that belt at that time.
Absolutely, and I just cannot wait to watch the fight against you, with you and Tatsuro Taira. It's going to be a fight that I know fans are going to be super excited for once it's headed your way. And to the fans at home watching, do be sure to check out Brandon Royval against Tatsuro Taira in October. It's a fight you do not want to miss. Brandon, thank you so much for your time, brother. And to the fans at home watching, I will be linking Brandon's social media in the description down below. Check him out on social media, as well as if there's any kind of like foundations I can link in the description, I would love to do so, just so the fans know where to donate or where to maybe just, send a little bit of help. It goes a long way for the kids, and I know, Brandon, you've done a remarkable job, and I want to thank you just for all your goodwill and what you've been able to do and with your platform and as a fighter. Thank you so much for that. It's been me, Dan, from FightWave. Have a great day, guys.